I'm very happy to be able to welcome to the podcast today Ingmar Jungnickel from AiRO app. How are you, Ingmar?
Doing well, and thank you for having me.
Any kayaking going on in Salt Lake City for you at the moment, or is it just mountain biking that you're into?
Yeah, just mountain biking in summer, skiing in winter, camping.
Yep.
Lots of great lakes here. I've actually not kayaked really at all in like a decade now.
Okay, Aerodynamics. Actually, funnily enough, I saw a triathlete magazine article pop up only just the other day, and talking about, it's the one thing that age group athletes wish they could do, but not many age group athletes have access to that. Are you going to tell me you might have solved that problem?
Yeah. Maybe not solved it, but I think we offer a new opportunity in ways and for riders and athletes where this before wasn't possible.
Yeah. Okay. How did you get into aerodynamics? I laugh because I know that some of your background, it took a while to arrive at cycling and triathlon or anything that truly involved two wheels, but you started kayaking seriously. That's where you first got into sport?
Yeah, exactly. It's how I got into also the Olympic community. I have a friend now, one of my longest friends since primary school. We spent time together and he told me, yeah, we own a boat. Yeah, we own a few boats. Yeah, we own around 25 kayaks.
Yep.
And then turned out his family had gone to the Olympics. Just, now I'm in the cycling world. I know many people with like a dozen plus bikes.
Yeah.
Back then, this whole idea that somebody had like large multiples of like the same sporting equipment was very novel to me.
Yeah.
And that was my introduction, and was also my introduction to sports science or lack thereof. Going to nationals in Germany, finishing that last, doing everything wrong, possibly. And then trying to figure out what went wrong. Had two effects. One is I was kind of over kayak racing, wanted to try something new. And then always having been a bit of a science nerd is really getting into the what should I have done? How did that So, sometimes setbacks and like low points in life can be a good birth of new stuff.
Yeah. Not just the training side of things, I bet you retrospectively reviewed in your mind, but when did the fascination with aerodynamics start?
So I was using bikes and running for cross training already for kayak racing.
Yeah.
And the bike that I had just by chance happened to be a triathlon bike. It's what I bought off eBay. I bought a bunch of parts and had to puzzle those together. Part of that was being, 15-year-old with a very limited budget. And I had to go from store to store, show them all these parts that I had, figure out what was missing, building up a bike for the first time. And I actually really enjoyed that technical feature on it. And then also as I was reading about the sport of triathlon and trying to get into triathlon, one of the things that stood out to me is that there were people that were speaking just kind of in hearsay and people that were speaking in the like, everybody does that or that's the way it's done. And there were people that were turning to physics and to equations and to like weighing things and reasoning. And I just related to those people much more. And a lot of them were trying to explain, okay, there's like this new thing now, it's called a power meter. You can use power. There's conservation of energy, which I knew about from physics class. You can figure out where all of these things go. And it all made so much sense to me. And at that point, it pointed out that, hey, actually the main resistance people face is aerodynamic drag. It's not weight. And I felt I had stumbled upon this like
light
this,
bulb,
like, wrong in the universe that had to be righted almost from this perspective that everywhere people were, when they saw a bike, what was the first thing they did? They picked it up and then they commented on how light it was.
Yep.
In triathlon, it's not even a really relevant thing at all on most courses.
Yeah.
And that mismatch got me obsessed on it.
Okay.
And I spent my next, that obsession started at 17, 18. I'm now 36. So coming up on 20 years chasing that now.
And I think there's more to continue to chase as well. At what point did you end up getting or moving to the US and getting involved in, other sports that require aerodynamics assessment?
Yeah, I think there's two major phases, or actually there's three phases to all of this. The first one was the part where I was just this kind of aero nerd by myself without really a community around it. There were people in the US already then. I was getting quite interested in the US cycling culture. Back then, I felt a lot of the leading companies were zip, hat, felt specialized. And got to meet a few of those people at trade shows and talking to ear off. But back then I was really just a weird kid with that obsession that kept talking to people. And then I went to engineering school, studied aerodynamics and mechanical engineering at the Technical University in Dresden, became a research assistant at the Windtunnel there, and was developing my own software together with a friend that would allow to do velodrome testing. After paper from Professor Robert Chung, UC Berkeley, who I also had the privilege of then later meeting and working geographically close to. And was working on the software. And then Alpha Mantis came out, which was this velodrome testing software. And we had essentially built the same or very, very similar piece of tech, just as a hobby, as a university student. And we realized, hey, this could be a business. And the tunnel I worked at, the German Olympic team tested at, I showed it to them. They ended up buying the technology. I got to work with the German national team. They made some steps forward. And then I got the attention from Specialized as Racing, started working with the Specialized Tour de France teams. And so this funny path was there were 5-6 years where I was just kind of the awkward kid that was doing weird like science nerd stuff in cycling. And then within a 2-year phase, I went from that to working in the world tour, traveling 200 days a year.
Wow.
Flying all over Europe, going to the Giro, Vuelta tour, all the big races, working with most of the world champions, most of the fastest athletes. And it was this very sudden shift in all of this. Then I moved to the United States, joined Specialized headquarters as an aero employee, then took over the aero department. And really spent 8 years focused on cycling. So that's kind of the big second phase in all of this.
Yeah. So certainly working at the coalface and with very, very elite athletes as well. But I think in the back of your mind, are you saying there's still a problem that exists? And why is aero optimization been so hard for everyday athletes to access? Is that what you were always thinking?
I wouldn't necessarily say that was always the theme in all of it, but it was the theme at the beginning, was how can we make aero testing more approachable? And that was purely out of the need of being a university student. It wasn't necessarily that altruistic of a goal. I wanted to become more aerodynamic. And I didn't have the money to go to a wind tunnel. So, I had to develop all this tech. As a fun little tangent on this, I was also working to build a metabolic cart at that time. So, because I couldn't afford a metabolic cart, so I got quite deep into how metabolic carts work. But,
yes, you are illustrating. There's a science geek in there, isn't there?
Yes. So there's a common thread there. And then at Specialized, I got to work on all the high-end bikes, work with all the high-end athletes. A lot in aerodynamics. You just keep getting funneled towards that high-end side of things. The professional sports. So just wind tunnels are expensive. Supercomputers are expensive. That was the whole part in all of this. Then the third chapter in all of this was then the connection to the US Olympic community and the US Olympic team. And all of that. And
you along this pathway as well, there's other people out there that are trying to solve this aerodynamics puzzle and bringing some commercially viable products to market. You mentioned Alpha Mantis. There's been a few other things. We look at what the Norwegians are doing. They've got some things bolted to their bike as well. Everyone's trying to get a CDA value. We talked about this off air. We were working with Stack way back in the day when they had their CFD scanner as well, and attempting to do those 3D scannings. There's been plenty of people that have tried to bring a commercially viable product to market, but how did you manage to make the breakthrough?
So, great question. I followed all these companies on that were offering kind of these digital twin CFD processes in it. And I should say the process behind it is that you take a 3D scanner, you scan an athlete, you then use computer simulation to simulate the airflow, and you don't need a tunnel. So from that side, it sounds great. I've used these processes with the German Federation with Specialized. The issue with all of this is that 3D scanning is very cumbersome. It's hard to get the quality of the mesh correctly. It takes a lot of manual cleanup. What that then means in reality is that turnaround per position is in days. The simulation costs per athlete is in the hundreds of dollars. And before you know it, you're not actually all that far away from wind tunnel testing. So one of the keys
from a cost perspective.
From a cost perspective, cost and complexity. The scanning is also not easy to learn, so you have to have trained personnel. And so on. And for us, the big breakthrough was finding what's called a parametric human model. This idea of using as our core technology what we call our digital aero twin technology. And so at our core is this model of a person that has hundreds of things we can adjust about that person. So everything from like limb lengths to like biceps diameter to muscle definition, body fat, all these kinds of things to tune it into all kinds of. And then combining this with an AI tool that can do this just from a couple photos. And that means we can now create a 3D model of an athlete fully automated in 3.5 minutes. And that model matches the person. And it is always the exact same model. It doesn't have any holes. It doesn't have any wrinkles. It doesn't have any of the scanning artifacts and issues that you tend to get when you use 3D scanning. And then combining this with some of the learnings that I have from a past project and my business partner coming from the gaming industry, the other big breakthrough from us was utilizing what is called the rigging and motion animation technologies that you have from movies or games, where you see these avatars dancing or jumping or making all these moves. This is all from the gaming industry to understand, okay, how does a body behave? How can we make a body move? So instead of us rescanning every time where you get all the position changes, we actually create this digital twin only once. And then we're able to adjust this posture through these pose sliders. And that means we can adjust, for example, a small cockpit change in seconds and launch another simulation. And combining this with very fast CFD means we can create a digital twin in 3.5 minutes, 3 minutes to recreate the on-bike pose, and then we can run 10 simulations, each taking around 7 minutes, but we can run them all in parallel. So within half an hour in a fit studio with the athlete present, we can do the same amount of aero testing and the same kind of quality as aero testing as a 2-3 hour wind tunnel session.
I've been to the wind tunnel, Ingmar, at Specialized as well, Santa Cruz, and seen the process happen in real life. I've been to the velodrome and seen aero testing performed there and seen the process in real life. I've actually attempted some stack scans myself, and I understand what you say with bits of the body missing, because there's a real technique to what the stack scanning used to require in order to try to create that digital twin. But you seem to have certainly seen everything that's come, but improved on it. How much did the advent of AI help with that process? So there's a few answers there, both on what we've done so far and then in where we are going with it. Our company is called AiRO, AiRO. Yes, there's AI in our name. I get this is becoming a little bit of a theme here, and could be perceived as a bit of a cheap marketing ploy and things. But it's really good to understand what our vision is in all of this. The first part is really this AI model that we use to create this digital twin, right? That's one of the chief AI technologies. The second part is, of course, we use heavily AI in the software development side of things, so how the software was built. And then the third part that is currently a bit of a misnomer, but points at where our journey is headed,
is using, we don't actually use AI for the airflow right now. We use computational fluid dynamics.
Okay.
And the reason for all of this is that to have actual airflow of a person in an AI model, you need training data.
Yep.
And the way that pans out is we have now 8,500 simulations completed from the airflow around human athletes.
Yep.
We're expecting to approach 100,000 simulations by the end of this year.
Wow.
So we have to take this first step to do CFD and offer the supercomputer, very costly supercomputer calculations to set up our training set. But just I came out of a meeting before this podcast, and this is exactly what we're working on, and this is our next step. It's actually using AI also for the airflow and the drag predictions. And that will enable us to offer features and technologies that are substantially beyond the current state of the art.
Okay. Let's talk about how it works for someone walking in off the street. Are we saying that it's best used in the company of a bike fitter, or are we also saying that the app has a huge amount of potential for someone just at home wanting to tinker themselves? Walk me through what a session would look like if we were about to use the app for the first time.
Yeah, absolutely. And to answer these questions one after the other, we have decided to only sell aero to trained performance bike fitters and coaches.
Nice. I like it.
And we have made that decision after first pursuing a more commercial launch and then seeing how people were using the app. The thing that we have to clearly say is we're purely an AI tool. We're not a complete bike fit. So we're purely an aero tool. We're not a complete bike fit solution. And a good bike fit is more than low drag. And in fact, we've seen this with people in the Windtunnel that you can get carried away. With aero, that risk is even bigger because it's so easy to move a slider into that location on this. So all in all, we have a heavy education element here as well, that we get our fitters trained up, our fitters qualified when they start using aero. We do not make fitters obsolete. If anything, we make fitters more necessary because all that knowledge around biomechanics, comfort, health, injury risk is still critical in a bike fit. So that's the first part. To say how you get it, how you use it, is you go to your trained aero fitter and they will give you a position that ticks all your boxes, not just the low drag.
I like that because given to the general public, people are going to attempt to lower their CDA as much as humanly possible at the expense of what is a fit that firstly they can ride comfortably, but secondly doesn't actually create an injury issue. So you really want to absolve yourself from that potential problem. And at the end of the day, there's small nuances in and around bike fit that will allow the athlete to stay healthy, comfortable, but aerodynamically optimal. Really does come down to working with a good fitter.
Absolutely. And so we are committed to our aero fitters.
Okay. So I walk into my bike fitter, Justin Ralph, here in New Zealand, which we'll talk a little bit more about because we do have an offering here in New Zealand. I think over in Australia, which would be our next closest partner, I think the Gold Coast Cycling Institute there has got a fitter, but we'll certainly put links to where people can look on your website to find out where these fit opportunities are. But let's say I walk in to see Justin. What am I going to do straight away?
Yeah, perfect question. Justin, amazing partner. We have 4 fitters in New Zealand. In general, for every athlete that's interested in getting an aero fit, we're approaching major milestone for us. I'm quite excited. We're approaching 100 fitters worldwide.
Wow.
You can go on aero.app. Then there's a find a fitter map where you can find your best local fitter, reach out, schedule a meeting. The very first step that fitter will do is an intake assessment. So your regular biomechanics assessment, ask for the riding goals, ask for any injury history, and all of that. As part of this, the fitter will also take a photo of you standing in your cycling clothing, both from the front and the side, and measure your height and weight. With that, our software and our computers in the background will create the digital twin, while the fitter can double check all your postural elements, your range of motion, and get an idea, get to know you as a person, as an athlete, and as a body with unique limitations and opportunities.
Yep.
The next step is the biomechanics fit. So the fitter would put the athlete onto the bike, would also record front and side photo of the pre-fit baseline, and then complete a bike fit purely from the aerodynamic, from the biomechanic comfort perspective.
Yeah,
so
perfect.
The complete adjustment is correct. Seat height, alignment, saddle choice. From all of this, we make sure that the athlete is already in a basically good position with all the major issues fixed before we get into aerodynamics.
Yep.
And then the other part in all of this is the fitter can gather a lot of data and intuition around the range of positions that they would be comfortable putting the athlete in.
Yep.
So after the regular fit is completed, the aero fit would be an add-on, essentially, in all of this.
Yep.
And the way that would work is after this, the fitter would recreate the digital twin in the on-bike pose location with using motion capturing, using the images on the bike to automatically get the position quite close, and then use our pose sliders to match this posture.
Yep.
So the first part is then run a CFD simulation of the athlete in the posture that athlete currently is in.
Yep.
The next step, and that is unique about our process, is once we have this digital twin in the baseline position, we can load that twin in again in exactly this position, which is one of the big strengths of our software. You've done Windtunnel testing. You know that the biggest source of error of an athlete is actually athlete repeatability. You put an athlete in the tunnel twice in what the athlete believes is the same pose.
Exactly.
Sits in the bike 2 different times.
And the same with going around a velodrome, trying to hold the same position every time. And you just know that that's not humanly possible.
Exactly. But that's the nice part with our digital twin that is perfectly repeatable each time.
Yep.
So you can just make these targeted changes.
Yep.
And that changes the workflow also because we are 99% cheaper than Windtunnel testing.
Yep.
You can actually first test all the positions that you want to consider. And you don't have to be super selective on just the few ones you would consider. Then look at an overview of all the positions you've considered. Talk to your athlete so you can run 10 of these pose simulations at the same time. Cool little thing for the fitter using these 10 pose simulations. They unleash more compute power at around that time. That's around 800 gigabytes of... that's around 8 terabytes of RAM.
Okay.
1,900 cores. Around more compute power than I had at Specialized to design the Venge as the bike fitter to run these kinds of simulations, generating 60 gigabytes of data in these 7 minutes. But all wrapped up in a nice airflow simulation, a report highlighting all these 10 positions. A drag, power on the bike, showing you, okay, for these 10 positions, here is what the outcome would be for each of those positions. Then the fitter would combine that knowledge with all the knowledge they've gathered in that fit session to then recommend which posture the athlete should try on the bike. Then they would recreate that on the fit bike, have the athlete try it. Then depending on the time commitment and the package that an athlete booked, this can either be the package, then it can be done in 45 minutes to an hour as a more basic package, or they can keep going, do more riding time, do another virtual iteration, do a larger, more in-depth part. So we're able to test more broadly, or we're able to offer aero testing at a price point and at a time point that cannot be achieved by any other.
What I think is quite interesting from an athlete buy-in perspective, having, as I say, been to both Windtunnel and also velodrome testing, is that we're reliant on just being told the numbers and we don't get to visually see what's really happening. So in that fit session that you've just described, could the fitter actually show the athlete in real time how that wind is interacting with the body in terms of the position change by looking at the digital twin?
Yes, absolutely. And that's one of the really good steps forward once we added that feature for our customers. The challenge with aerodynamics is that we can't see air, right? It's see-through. And in tunnels, we can use these smoke ones. That's also hard to visualize it. There's more advanced technologies called PIV, these laser lines that you can use to visualize the smoke. we built this virtual PIV system into our software where we're able to visualize the airflow at any point of the athlete. And you can really see what is happening to the air. Sometimes a tiny postural change leads to a huge change in drag. And it can be quite useful to see, okay, the way the air is flowing has now shifted completely. And it has switched from one flow profile to a different one.
Okay. You started in cycling, and you know that the obsession with aerodynamics in the world of cycling is certainly there. But, in recent times and more recent times, if you cast your eye over to the world of triathlon, it's been on the upswing in terms of optimization, aftermarket parts, front ends. You must be really excited by what you see in the time trial world that's happening, especially in the pro ranks of the elite end of the sport, as to how much consideration is being given to aerodynamics.
Yeah, absolutely. The sport has really professionalized in that regard. And this is something that we have on our radar and our roadmap as well. Right now, one of the things that was an afterthought when we developed it and has become one of our most popular features is actually our helmet recommender ability.
Okay.
So when we test, of course, we have to test with an athlete, with a helmet on the athlete.
Yeah.
We just scanned a few helmets we had laying around and had the ability to put on helmets. And then we realized that, it's one of the other challenges athletes face. Is we all understand that your helmet choice is very personal.
Yeah.
And virtually nobody is willing to spend $2,000 to figure out which $400 helmet they should buy.
Yeah.
To go to a wind tunnel.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in our case, we are able to test all the helmets and all the major head positions. We have the most popular 18 helmets, TT helmets scanned and in the app, so that a fitter can recommend which helmet works for that specific head position.
Yeah. And as I say, having been to real, I've just probably done you a disservice there by saying real aerodynamics testing, because that's probably one of the things I will ask you a little bit later as to the uptake and the trust that people are putting in a platform like this versus what we've had in the past. But from a helmet perspective, having been to wind tunnels and velodromes and seeing the fitters with their box full of the most popular helmets sitting off to the side, and then the time that it takes just to test helmets alone. Because look, the reason that we're doing that is helmets do make a difference. They do certainly make a difference. But to be able to do that from a catalogue of already pre-tested helmets and just put it onto the top of the digital twin, that's a huge cost and time saver.
Yes, absolutely. And as a friend of mine pointed out, nobody that buys a TT helmet is in the market of a helmet. They already have a helmet. Yeah. Everybody's looking for a faster helmet than the helmet that they currently have. Yeah. The key part there is how do I even know if it's faster? And that's now something we're quite happy that we can provide that piece of insight.
Well, as I said, this is relatively new to the market as such. What kind of uptake are we seeing at the elite level? I think I've probably already answered that question in terms of talking about what you've done so far in your academic and also work career to date, that there must be seen a lot of value in where this type of technology is heading now, and maybe not to say it's going to surpass wind tunnel testing as such, but how do those two things work in conjunction now in terms of what's happening in the elite space?
Yeah, exactly. And we like to split it a bit depending on the use case. So we have to talk about the user that have never been to a wind tunnel, or the rider that's never been to a wind tunnel, where wind tunnel is completely out of the realm. In general, an expertly executed wind tunnel test or a field test can still be a little bit more accurate than aero. So that's something to be aware of. At the same time, if we look at the systems that most fitters use, they either look at frontal area or they look at things like copying the pros, looking at an athlete.
Yeah.
And we are drastically more accurate than all of these systems. So for most riders, we are substantially more accurate than any other testing tool that they have access to. And then I would recommend us as the primary decision maker. Yeah. Now, we are proud and we're lucky that we have 4 World Tour teams using our software currently. We are talking to more World Tour teams currently. We have quite a few triathlon pros using the app as well, and world-class coaches in that regard. And for the absolute top athletes, the teams that have Windtunnel budgets, we actually use it as a pre-screening tool. And the idea is to say, okay, you can test 50, 100 different positions virtually, and then test the top 10 things. Or you can test virtually first without involving the athlete, and you can try crazier things. And then, for example, that's how we do it with a lot of the people I directly advise. We can then loop in strength and conditioning, their bike fitters, we can loop in their biomechanists, their coaches, and we can come up with a plan on A, do we even want to pursue this gain at all? And B, if we want to pursue it, what does the roadmap look like? That is sometimes measured in years. On it. In the high end, that is one of the other values of this tool.
Okay. Well, we've seen in triathlons the advent of, 3D printed front ends, but then we're also looking at materials, trip strips, and a whole lot of other different aftermarket additions to optimizing aerodynamics. Are you at that point where you could actually even make a decision based on something like a trip strip or calf sleeves or something like that as well?
Yeah, on the equipment side, to talk through the capabilities that we already have. So in the app right now are these 18 helmets that we've talked about. We also have internally the capability to test bottle placement, and we've been using that with some pros. That is a feature that is soon coming into the app, is bottle placement for triathletes. The next thing that is something that we're looking on is custom cockpits, is to get these most popular cockpit parts into the app and into the software. Because we do know that especially mono extensions can have some interaction with the system, where currently not having them in the app is a simplification. So that's something that we're looking into and we're working on. For apparel, we actually just put in for another US Olympic Committee grant. I should say this was founded through a US Olympic Committee Tech and Innovation grant. We're quite grateful for their support. US Speedskating was our original partner. US Ski and Snowboard is one of our partners. Got to go to Milan Cortina with
lovely.
So, this was really quite close in Winterside. The next step we're currently pursuing is actually apparel simulation. One of the key researchers here, Professor Bert Blocken, whose papers we already used to tune our models, and Theo Einthoven lab at that time, released another paper showing that it's technically possible to simulate apparel. For a lot of these things, for the business we're building, the key challenge isn't only whether it's technically possible, but whether it's economically possible. Each simulation costs hundreds of dollars. It's not economically possible. Similar limitations right now, we only test one crank position. We don't test pedaling. And one yaw angle. Those are questions we're often getting. We have actually technically no issue testing more than one yaw angle. It costs 5 to 7 times as much. And we do not currently believe there's a market to spending 5 to 7 times as much. This is where I were hinting already, these AI features will really unlock the doors for us.
There's only so much you can offer within the app before the cost actually would suggest that it's better to go off to a wind tunnel.
Yes. And though the thing to speak about is in the last 5 years, CFD has become 50 times cheaper. If we fast forward another 5 years, another 50 times seems realistic. Tunnels in 5 years will cost roughly as much as when tunnels do now. And that's one of these things that has fascinated me about digital technologies now for quite a while. It's just the rate of improvement is just in a whole nother universe than anything that's on the physical side.
Definitely. A lot of amateur athletes will be saying, what is the true performance impact? Reducing wind drag. We've had other experts on the show talk about it. The body sitting on the bike is your biggest obstacle as such. But I think there's still sort of an appreciation. Well, look, I only have to go and have a look at a genuine Ironman race anywhere around the world and seeing the even towards the front of the race, but certainly through the middle and towards the back of the race, certainly opportunity for optimizing aerodynamics. It's literally free speed. And I don't know whether there's been a reluctance or maybe a naivety in and around whether it's even important or not. But now that we see products like this coming to market and becoming accessible to everyone around the world, then I think there is going to be more of an interest in whether this relates to each individual in terms of improving how quickly they can get around the race course. Throwing very broad numbers around, Ingmar, what are we talking over 180 Ks if someone was to, improve their aerodynamic position only by a fraction, if not, greater than that?
Yeah. So to first speak in the realm of power, our average power savings at 40 kilometers per hour for our athletes is around 26 watts. That is how much power saving we see from an AeroFit session. Only gained 26 watts in one season once in my life. That was switching from being a triathlete to being a road cyclist.
In terms of true fitness change as opposed to power savings. And you'd be able to do that literally based on the fact that you're collating the data that you're taking from all these fits to see what the average saving is.
Yeah.
Okay.
And to give you an idea what that would be in time over an Ironman.
Yeah.
This is napkin math here.
No problems. Exactly. We're not going to. I'm certainly not going to hold you accountable to this.
Okay. I'm sure we'll have listeners that don't.
Yeah.
No, it's around 8 minutes over an Ironman.
Yeah, yeah. And I would suggest your average saving at the moment would be from a data set of a more elite cohort, I'm suspecting, only because of what I believe to be the people that would actually decide to invest and spend some money on optimizing their aerodynamics are those athletes who are already probably going relatively quickly. What I'm thinking about is the meat in the middle there, where I look at their bike setups. And firstly, I wouldn't even consider aerodynamics. I'd say, go and get a bike fit. You are in a horrific position just visually looking at them. But if now they can go off and do that bike fit, but for a little bit more investment, actually match it with an aerodynamics package as well, I would say that I think you're undervaluing 26. If you start to get a few more of the middle of the road athletes coming to see you, I think we're going to see even greater savings.
Yeah, absolutely. And a comparison there I like to make, and also to speak to this, I understand that many triathletes say, hey, this Ironman distance, this long distance, it's really intimidating to me. I don't know if I can sit on an aero position for this long. I'm scared about, can I even finish this race? Can I run after this? And this whole idea that aero is combined with being uncomfortable or with sacrifices in this regard. But I don't think it has to be, and I don't think that's actually the right thing for that athlete. The comparison that I would make is that this athlete also is going to swim training and is looking at their form as a swimmer. And they understand that 3.8 kilometers are not easier when your legs are dangling below you at a 45-degree angle through the water. And hydrodynamic drag and aerodynamic drag is not that different from each other. And if you can work on your swim form to make the 3.8 kilometers your swim leg easier to you, you can do the same work on your bike form to do that, make that race easier for you. Nobody wants to make it harder for you. You can save substantial time on the bike.
Are we thinking that the world going forward sees any serious bike fitter having an opportunity to offer aerodynamics as well? Because it seems like it's almost goes hand in hand, and with the the evolution of technology, which you've been on the cusp of the wave of, and now it's actually available with bike fitters, that we're going to probably see many serious bike fitters, especially those oriented towards time trialing, are going to be offering the service as well.
Yeah. So I mentioned we are about to cross 100 fitters
Yeah.
We started our offering last September, so we've grown quite tremendously. This month we added 20 fitters. We just very fortunate to have the partnership with Jobiomized in Europe. Amazing bike fit company, experts in their own right, who is helping us with the German market, and we're going to do some partnerships there around aero stability and really bringing these features to end riders. So yeah, we believe that for anybody that cares about performance, this is a must-have, and this is not an optional feature around it. And the way the world is changing with all of this is, it should be part of anybody that is acting in sports where aerodynamic drag is more than half of the resistance, which is definitely road racing and which is definitely triathlon.
Yeah. And unfortunately, where swimming's concerned, it's not quite as easy and you're not in the water for as long. But where Ironman is concerned, 180 Ks on the bike, if we can go 8 minutes faster for free, as I say, napkin math, we're not holding you to that, but it could even be more than that. It sort of makes intuitive sense. Where to for you guys from here going forward? You're always obviously making some significant inroads, but in terms of development, where else do you think you can head?
Yeah, so on our short-term roadmap, is, as I mentioned, we're adding bottle positioning, bottle recommending. We're going to add more of the equipment side of things to it. And then also just making sure we're a new company supporting our fitters correctly and helping them. We've been growing tremendously fast.
Yeah.
That's a new experience for me. Making sure we can actually fulfill the demand that is currently out there, get fitters trained up and properly supported. That's actually one of our near-term priorities in all of this.
Yeah.
Longer term, as I mentioned, will be utilizing this data set of thousands, soon tens of thousands. Well, very soon 10,000, then tens of thousands of simulations to actually generate insights from all of this. Is that we are pretty certain we've done more aerodynamic simulations of athletes now than the entire sport has done in history combined. And that data set is quite valuable. And utilizing this to give recommendations, accelerate our simulations, accelerate our models, adding new features is one of the things I'm most excited about.
Yeah, definitely. And I am as well. As I say, I was very excited when the first offering like Stack came along and looked at the potential of that, but then also realized at that point in its development and tech's development in general, the limitations of that. But you've certainly taken that conversation and advanced it a lot more. So I know that there's going to be a lot of people thinking, hey, I've never had the opportunity to consider aerodynamics testing. Now there seems to be a very viable option. So we'll certainly put links to the page in the website where any listeners of the podcast can go to see where their nearest opportunity is to get both bike fitted and aerodynamically tested. So Ingmar, continue to do what you're doing. It seems very exciting and fantastic. And we look forward to seeing where this ends up heading in the future for you.
Thank you. Yeah, we're excited. It's been quite a journey. The demand, the support that we've received, the opportunities that we have. Some of the things that I am hopefully getting to announce here in the next few weeks, 2 months.
Okay.
We're extremely excited about. So there's good things coming. And thank you for being in our corner. And thank you for giving us the opportunity to talking about our capabilities. We can do to help make our riders faster.
Brilliant. Well, I look forward to seeing what those announcements are. There may be a future podcast conversation in the offering.
Sure thing.
All right, Ingmar, thank you very much. And we'll hopefully catch up with you again in the future.
Yeah, let's talk soon.